Hey everyone, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey here in beautiful Long Beach, California for TPM24, and it is day 2. Now stay tuned because we've got some incredible insights to share with you from some of the experts that have been on the stage with us today. Hey everyone, I am here with Noel. Welcome, how are you?
I'm doing amazing, Sarah. It's always great to see you.
Yes, it's always great to see you too. Now tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Noel Hasegaba. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Port of Long Beach.
Yes, and we are just steps away from the Port of Long Beach, and it's always great to see you here in California when I get here for some of the conferences. Now tell me, what's your experience like at TPM24 this year?
Well, first of all, we could not be more excited to welcome all of you to TPM24 here in Long Beach. For me, it's been an amazing experience so far. It's been a whirlwind. Started with meetings last Thursday, had the opportunity to meet with Peter Tershwell, and it's gotten better and better and better ever since with more meetings. And you can just feel the vibe. The energy is so electric.
Yep.
And the camaraderie and the friendships are really blossoming here.
Yeah, and it's great to see the expansion. They've expanded in a whole bunch of ways. Yeah. We've got lots of representation outside with all the containers. You can't see it, but when you come next year, you'll be able to see it. And there's just so many people doing lots of business, having some great conversations. Now let's talk about the longshore piece. That happened in 2023. And I think that piece is going to be for about 5 years, right? Yes. You were able to negotiate that. So what does that mean for 2024 and maybe the cargo flow?
Well, first of all, I could not be more ecstatic. The fact that both the PMA LWU struck a deal right when it was most needed. Yeah. In fact, within months of that deal being announced, not necessarily ratified, but announced, we started noticing the cargo coming back. And you could tell just in looking at our cargo volume, Sarah. Yeah. Here for the Port of Long Beach, for example, from August 2022 through August 2023, we had 13 consecutive months of year-over-year declines. Right. But starting in September of 2023, within months of that announcement, we started noticing an uptick. Yeah. And in fact, through February, I'm pleased to say that we're now in our 6th consecutive month of year-over-year positive growth.
Wow, congratulations.
And thank you. And we're ready for more, by the way. Yeah. We're ready for more. As a matter of fact, just in the last few weeks, one of our terminals, TTI, set an all-time record.
Wow.
2,824 lifts in a single shift. Now, just think about that.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's over 350 lifts an hour. That's something that's never been done.
Wow.
And it just shows how ready we are and how committed we are. How committed we are to ensuring reliability, velocity, and showing the rest of the world that we're ready for more cargo.
Amazing numbers. Thanks for sharing that with me. Yep. When I got into Long Beach, I saw a whole bunch of vessels in the water, and it was great to see. Yes. And so I can only say that it's going to continue for you. So talk to us about rail connectivity. I know that is something that is top of mind for you at the Port of Long Beach. Walk us through what that looks like and what that means to the clients that are running through your port.
Well, here at the Port of Long Beach, 2024 is the year of rail. That's what we've themed it. And the
year of rail, I love that.
Yeah, the year of rail. and here's the reason why. When you look into the future, and you look at all of our infrastructure investments, we've got a $2.2 billion CapEx program over the next 10 years. And by the way, that's on top of the $4.5 billion CapEx program we just delivered in the last 15 years.
Wow.
So no other port authority in North America, possibly the world, has invested that much in our infrastructure. The centerpiece of our CapEx spend, Sarah, going forward is all on rail. We're building out a project we call Pier B. It's an on-dock rail support facility. And just imagine the Port of Long Beach, the nation's second busiest seaport, building out one of the largest rail yards in the nation within our boundaries.
Wow.
Because that's effectively what we're doing. We're taking 12 existing tracks and we're amplifying that to 48. And then when you consider that BNSF, one of our rail carriers, they're investing in their Barstow International Gateway project. So the connectivity there is going to raise the bar like never before. Yeah. So why are we doing this? Because if we want to grow and we want to offer more capacity, velocity, reliability to our customers, rail is the fastest, cleanest, and most efficient way to move containers out of the port. And that's why we're doing it. We're doing it for our customers.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going from 12 to 48, I mean, that's 4 times what you're doing right now.
That's right.
So you just spoke about capacity and the volume that you can bring in through the port. Now you're talking about the volume that you can actually move onto the rail and get it onto the rail faster. And that's what everybody is looking for. Now, I think you also have a pilot program around trucker appointments as well, trucking appointments. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Give us a little bit of a inside view into what that's going to do.
Absolutely. So just as we're investing in our physical infrastructure, traditional infrastructure, we're also investing aggressively in our digital infrastructure.
Okay, great.
One of the lessons learned from the supply chain crisis is just how that lack of visibility has interrupted operations.
Yeah, and we don't want that anymore.
Not anymore. I mean, we would hope that we've learned our lessons, right? But that gap, that gap in visibility was magnified many times over. So what we did a couple of years ago here at TPM is we launched this new initiative we call the Supply Chain Information Highway.
Okay.
This week, in conjunction with TPM24, we're launching 3 new features that will liberate the data, put the data in the hands of our shippers so that they can make real-time decisions and optimize our operations. In addition to that, we're also taking the first step in building out a universal appointment system. It's an agnostic system that will enable our BCOs and their trucking companies to book appointments across multiple terminals. Now, believe it or not, Sarah, that doesn't exist today. If someone wants to book an appointment to pick up a container or drop off a load, they have to go to each terminal's operating system. Well, this will enable them to book appointments across the different terminals. Now, why is that important? Number one, it gives predictability to the truckers, and it gives them that flexibility to book appointments across the board.
And they really need that. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want them sitting idle.
Absolutely.
Right? It doesn't do anything for the environment. And we also want them to be turning.
That's the key.
Because that means everybody's winning.
When containers are moving, the economy is moving, right? It's the economy in motion. But there's also a benefit to the terminals because one of the reasons why so many of the appointments go unfulfilled today is that everyone's trying to hedge the risk of missing their appointment window. So they book appointments that sometimes they can't make. So it's a win-win, and we could not be more excited about the fact that here in Long Beach, we're taking that step. It's been called for years. And again, it just demonstrates the innovation.
Absolutely. Well, Noel, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure.
Thanks for joining me here at TPM TV.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And I am here with Thomas. Thomas, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. It's fantastic to be back at the TPM.
Right?
Almost my 8th time, I think. Something like 8 or 9.
Wow, 8 or 9. And especially with the sunshine. Last year was a little bit gloomy. This year we've got the sunshine. Very happy about that. Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Thomas Eskesen. I'm the founder of Eskesen Advisory. We specialize in cold chain, and we work with clients all over the world. And this year is particularly exciting because we've been asked by the TPM to build up a special cold chain session. So we'll have no less than 8 sessions focusing on cold chain and deep dives starting here this afternoon. So it's fantastic.
Great. So talk to us about that. What can people expect from the topics that you're going to be talking about?
We hope they will come away much more educated. We all live in a very turbulent world, and our job is to sort of put some more context to the big geopolitical issues. How does that affect the cold chain? And as you know, when things go wrong in cold chain, you really have a problem at your hand. It's not easy just to say we should have a resilient cold chain when you're dealing with fresh perishable goods. So I think a lot of new context will come in. We got some great speakers, and as chairman and moderator, it's really exciting.
Very exciting. Now, you said this was your 8th or 9th TPM. What's different about this year for you, other than obviously launching the cold chain initiative?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with people who say this is a must-attend show. I've personally flew in from Copenhagen. It's,
that's a long
11-hour flight. You have 9 hours of jet lag and so on. But it is still the premier industry event. So it's a no-brainer. We have already booked our accommodation for next year, actually.
Next
so we're getting
year.
ready for it. Yeah.
Oh
so
yeah, you got to
yeah.
grab those hotels early. Just a little tip for those who are not here this year and want to come next year.
Start early.
All right. So you mentioned one of the challenges around geopolitical. What are some of the other challenges that supply chain professionals are facing with cold chain in 2024?
Yeah. So I think the biggest shift we've seen since COVID is that the cold chain has moved from a business that was largely a demand-driven business, where you could forecast what are people going to eat based on based on GDP and other things. Now we're moving into a more supply-driven business where global weather patterns are affecting production. Farmers around the world are very stressed when you have El Nino effects and the Panama Canal is closed. And similar when you have a situation like the Suez Canal, it's very traumatic if you have dry supply chains you need to manage and delays of 10 days.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to manage perishable goods, it's a completely different agenda. Now you may end up with food waste and so on. So it's much more sensitive, and that's really what's on top of mind right now, is a cascading effect of the Suez Canal crisis, which we think there is actually.
What does the cold chain market look like? Why is it such a critical component that we're talking about it? We're giving a whole afternoon to cold chain. Well,
I think that there are two points here. Number one, it's something we can all relate to. It's food. We all have a passion for food, and we see it every day. We all need it.
We all need to eat.
That's number one. Number two is that because it's the perishable nature of food, you really need a very, very good process. You need good suppliers to manage your supply chain. And it's not just a commodity where you go after lowest price. It's a little bit like if you're into sports and follow Formula One racing. It's like the Formula One of shipping. That's what I would label it. Even though it's only 6 to 8% of the global business, but it's still if you do that well, you can manage any client.
Amazing. All right. So what's one piece of advice that you would tell supply chain professionals maybe to consider, take action on, think about in 2024?
So that would be collaboration. If you think about...
My favorite word.
Fantastic.
Love that word.
If you think about a cold chain, it's a series of events that need to happen. That cold chain has been broken since COVID. So the only way we can proceed and eliminate food waste is if we start collaborating and think more strategic. The best example of that right now is in terms of the environmental focus with sustainability. We had a fantastic COP28 in Dubai recently and launched a new initiative called the -15C Coalition, where we are trying to lower emissions. It's actually a fairly simple concept. You increase the temperature by 3 degrees. If we all do that in collaboration, we can save millions and millions of CO2.
Wow!
And we are actually using the TPM here as a launch pad for that, and the excitement around it is amazing. But you cannot do it in silo. Everybody has to be on board.
Yes.
And as chairman of that coalition, it's just fascinating to see the passion around that. And the best award actually is when I talk to my teenage daughters, they say, "Wow, Dad, you're finally doing something cool." So that's
finally doing something cool. I love that. Well, you sound very, very busy, but thank you so much for all the work that you're doing on the ESG side to reduce some of those emissions, because it's a big job. And thank you so much, Thomas, for joining me on TPM TV.
You're welcome. Anytime. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. I am here with Mark. Mark, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Good. Now
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. Now, this is your first TPM. You've never been to a TPM before. So walk us through, in your eyes, what it's like being here, because you're a little bit of an outsider to the industry as well.
Sure.
And so, what did you think when you came here?
Well, certainly it's a great chance to meet a lot of people from different parts of the industry.
Yeah.
One thing I've actually found very useful is visiting some of the exhibits by various vendors, because everybody knows the carriers, but not everybody knows all of the smaller companies that play different roles in the logistics industry. And I find it very interesting to meet some of those people and figure out what it is they do.
Yeah, well, there's so many different components to supply chain. And there's so many people doing innovative, creative technological advancements in some of those just small nuggets of the industry, right?
Sure.
And so that's what makes it so vast and so many companies sort of coming together in a place like TPM. So now you were up on stage. Talk to us about what you spoke about, because I think it was called the fourth globalization. What does
Sure.
that mean?
Well, I'm a historian and an economist, and I've taken a historical perspective at looking at the development of international trade, which is obviously critical to container shipping. There's a lot of real loose talk about the end of globalization and how this is going to transform the world.
Because I'm not sure.
In a historical perspective, I don't think that globalization is ended. In fact, since globalization in the modern sense began probably close to 200 years ago, it's gone through a number of different phases, and I think we're going through a change of phase now. We went through a period that depended heavily on cheap labor manufacturing goods in other countries and sending them across the ocean. And people bought into that in part because they saved money, but in part because they didn't account for risk.
Right.
And now I think we're seeing a transformation in the industry as people start penciling in the risks, and they're thinking that maybe some of the supply chain decisions they made weren't really the right ones from a long-term perspective. They need to approach these choices a little bit differently.
Absolutely. And I think as we learn and grow, things are changing so quickly, right? I think that has something to do with it as well, because as we learn new things and as we learn new technological advances and different things like that, and we go through the pandemic like we did, it's going to change our thinking. It's going to change the way that we look at our supply chains and how do we do it globally, and is what we were doing before the right way?
This trend really started before the pandemic. It started in the mid-teens. Part of it was actually due to the shipping industry itself. As you know, many of the container companies bought these enormous vessels. In many cases, they fouled up trade. They didn't arrive on time. They had too many containers at one time to discharge, and then the port was clogged up. And these problems were evident before the pandemic. And we already saw that a lot of manufacturers and retailers were beginning to adjust their supply chains to take account of these factors. So this is not something that happens instantly. It's not like you can send a supply chain czar in and clean up the mess in supply chains. That's not how it works.
You're moving a big boat.
You're moving a big boat, and changes are on the margin. People make little changes at a time as they see ways to reduce their risks and protect their business and find opportunities for growth.
Absolutely. Now, you're the author of The Box and Outside the Box, which when we were talking earlier, you said a lot of international trade professionals read the book, The Box. Talk to us about your books. What are they about? What can people learn from them?
The Box is really a history of the shipping container and how it changed the world economy.
I love that.
It was really telling the story not only of how the container came to be and how the international container shipping industry came to be as we know it, but how the change in cost structures and the change in reliability led to changes in companies' sourcing decisions. If you take the container and combine it with the rapidly falling price of telecommunications and the improvement in communications back in the 1980s, it made modern supply chains possible. And I felt that a lot of the traditional economic analysis, which was focusing on things like tariffs, didn't really pay enough attention to these changes in transportation. And so that's the story that The Box tells. Outside the Box, which was published in 2000, is not a sequel. It's really talking about many of the shifts in supply chains and how risk has become a major issue in terms of how companies think about their supply chains.
Amazing.
And I've been telling people that I think that we're headed into a period in which manufacturing becomes less important, and so the reliance on manufactured products as a key part of supply chains is probably going to go down as the nature of international trade changes a bit. And intangibles are becoming much more important in international trade, and we don't even measure them well, but that's where a lot of the action is now.
Well, and probably customization is going to also have an effect on it as well, I would assume, because everybody wants everything customized these days.
You see customization. You also see a technology supplanting what used to be physical products. For example, there's some evidence that a lot of companies, manufacturing type companies, don't replace their equipment quite as often.
Okay.
Because you can update the software rather
Right.
than updating the hardware.
True.
So these are kinds of fundamental changes in the way companies do business, and
Right.
obviously they're affecting supply chains and
Yeah.
have implications
Yeah.
for carriers.
Yeah, and things that we need to think about. And I think I heard that you spent your early career at Journal of Commerce?
I was at the Journal of Commerce for 3 years in the 1980s. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
Amazing.
at that
So it's
point
kinda come
the-
full
the
circle for
editorial
you.
director, trying to fill an editorial page.
Uh-huh. And so it's come full circle for you
So-
because you're back here at TPM.
The Journal of Commerce is a very different creature today. And it's a good thing.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Mark, so much for joining me on TPM TV.
Glad to be with you.
Hey, everyone. I am here with Julia. Julia, welcome. How are you?
Great, how are you?
Good. It's a great second day at TPM so far. Now, this is your third
Yep.
TPM. What is different about TPM24 this year? What do you think?
I think the biggest thing is we're combining TPM Tech and TPM into one.
Right?
I
All
love
in
that.
the same couple of days.
I
Awesome.
love that because I've never been able to make it to TPM Tech because of scheduling issues. And so now we get to sit in on all of the technology conversations, and you can't talk about supply chain without technology.
No, you cannot.
They go hand in hand. So to have them completely separated and now come together is a big win.
Absolutely. Now, you and I did a fireside chat on stage today, and we talked about sort of the importer's view of technology. You gave us a bit of a glimpse into your supply chain, which was amazing. I loved all the slides that you put together, and you took us on a journey of what that, getting to where you are right now from a technology standpoint. I don't want to use digital transformation because Eric already told us yesterday that we're not allowed to use that word. But you took us on a journey of your technology and how you got there and the team necessary to be able to do that. Can you give us sort of maybe the top 3 insights from that?
Number one is your technology people need to be best friends with your operations and supply chain people.
Yes.
They need to be in lockstep. They need to be attached at the hip. They need to be speaking the same language, have the same goals, understand the business very thoroughly, to come up and collaborate together on those use cases.
Good.
It can't be a supply chain leader is asking them for this and they're order takers and they're just churning through
Right.
these specific asks.
Yeah.
Like they really need to be partnering and talking for the long term. What are going to be the needs, the use cases, and setting themselves up for success from that perspective. So,
Right.
technology and ops together. The second piece is you need to have really good partners to make sure that they can get you not just in the next 1 to 2 years, but long term to get you there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to get there, right? To go on this journey, we have a mix of partners. Some are startups, right? But they're able to spend a lot more time with us and dedicate resources to customize the solution to what we need. And we were also able to do it very quickly in a very customized way to hit a lot of our use cases, get some wins under our belt, and get the whole organization excited. You need that.
Yeah, you absolutely need that buy-in.
So much of the technology success is going to be 100% around the change management, user adoption, user buy-in, everyone getting excited over it.
Absolutely. Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you, because it wasn't sort of a straight line to success, right? You started and then maybe had to take a step back and then started again. What would you say to the shippers, the BCOs, the importers, as they're on their technology journey, going through some of that right now? What would be some of your advice?
One is to network and learn from people who've done it maybe in different
Okay, that's
areas.
good advice. Yeah,
I think so much of the time, especially supply chain professionals, we're so used to solving problems ourselves and being very self-sufficient. And I think in this approach, what I should have done from the very beginning is really tapped into my network and asked people,
Okay.
who are you using? How are you using it? What went wrong? And so forth, to get a lot of those learnings. I got there, but I got there kind of as we're building the
Right.
ship.
Yeah.
And
Lessons
so
learned.
I think that's a big one.
I love that. That's good.
Yeah.
I love that you shared that. Now, one of the biggest questions I asked you near the end was, what do you expect from your partners? Especially service providers. Where do they need to be on their technology journey for you to say, yes, I want to talk to you. Yes, we can talk about partnering. Because that's really important, because a lot of the service providers are on different journeys and they're at different levels. And I think, we have to have this conversation right now, because otherwise they're not going to be able to keep up.
I'll start with even just the sales pitch, right? The first interaction, the first time we're talking. I think the landscape has really shifted where you can't have, multiple follow-ups and exploration meetings until you can actually paint the picture for me what that time to value is going to be, what that upside is going to be, right? So doing a lot of diligence up front to make sure you understand the business, you understand the needs, what they're currently using is important. So that way, with that first meeting, you already have what are we going to hit, what are those key points of information that you need in order to come up with an excellent solution.
Amazing.
But second piece is making sure that it's easy to start trialing, get it off the ground very quickly, easy to integrate, and that it's not this whole drawn out implementation, because by then I'll be bored and I'll be on to the next thing, right? So kind of like how do you test it? How do you build that credibility and get it off the ground?
Amazing. Well, I love all of your advice. And let me tell you, if you were not here, you missed so many golden nuggets by this lady right here. So Julia, thank you so much for joining me here at TPM TV.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. Ari, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Excited about the second day. First day went very well, and there's going to be a lot of good content here today as well.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait. And so tell everybody who doesn't know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Ari Ash, and I cover multiple things at the Journal of Commerce. I cover the Southeast ports, and then I also cover everything intermodal rail, international, domestic, anything that moves in a container or trailer on the rail. And then as part of that, I work with Bill Cassidy, our senior trucking editor, to cover truckload and LTL, because you can't really cover intermodal rail without covering truckload. The two are intrinsically linked together.
Awesome. And you've been on my show before, so I really enjoy talking to you about both of those, trucking and intermodal, and you've got lots of great knowledge, and we're going to dive into a little bit of that today, because you're going to be on stage.
Yep.
And so talk to us a little bit about what are you excited about at TPM24 right now?
The thing I'm most excited about is that we've had the opportunity to speak to 5 of the 6 Class 1 railroads.
Okay.
And talk to them about, while things are calm today, at some point things are going to get hectic again. At some point, volume is going to get heavy. What have they learned from, to be perfectly honest,
that's a good question.
Significant service problems.
Right.
And for the Western railroads, I would venture to say pretty much gridlock, if not a collapse, partial collapse, so that going forward, if there are situations that happen, at least they have a plan B rather than being reactive. They're proactive with, okay, if we run out of chassis, here's what we do, rather than, oh my goodness, we ran out of chassis. We have no idea what to do.
Right. And they shared that with you. I love that. All right. So talk to us about some of the research that you're doing on the intermodal, I think it's the intermodal reports for the JOC.
So there's 2 of them. This is focused more on domestic intermodal than international. And so there's the Intermodal Savings Index and the Intermodal Service Scorecard. So the Intermodal Savings Index goes off of sort of a basic premise that if you're to use domestic intermodal to move something across the United States, how much should a shipper anticipate to save off of the truckload amount? So we know historically, across the United States, all lanes put together, that on a standard intermodal contract, you save about 25 to 27%.
Wow, that's a big number.
Yeah, but different lanes have different numbers. There are lanes in the United States where you save absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Then there are lanes where you save 40%. So every single month we go through the data and we develop an index, each lane and then the entire United States merged together. And then we put out a quarterly report showing the trends in terms of the competitiveness of intermodal pricing. So it's really good for shippers who want to determine what they can actually save in their budgets by picking domestic intermodal. So the second one is the Intermodal Service Scorecard. So that came from the basic premise that there was this service whole and sort of how do we measure the service. And so I came up with this idea that if I'm going to purchase a service around my home, I go on Angie's List, I go on Home Advisor. I don't just randomly pick someone because it's my hard-earned money.
The reviews.
So, yeah, we look at the reviews. Who do my neighbors think are good? Who are the people in my county who are highly recommended? So we apply that same concept to intermodal rail. And so we reached out to logistics providers saying, grade the railroads and their performance, and then we reach out to the domestic intermodal shippers and say, review JB Hunt, Schneider, Hub Group, STG, all of them. Tell us who's doing the best and why.
Wow. Okay. So we can actually go and figure out who's doing the best and why, and also see your rating system.
Indeed, and so it is available for Gold members, Gold subscribers, and it is a detailed, that one is a detailed 30-page report, so it's got a lot of stuff.
30 pages, that's a lot to go through, but it's great data.
I've got 6 Class 1 railroads and then 5 major intermodal marketing companies and then a conglomerate of the non-assets, so it's a lot of material. A lot of material.
A lot of material, a lot of work. All right, so talk to us about the state of the market. When we look at the rest of 2024 and beyond into 2025, what should people or supply chain professionals really be considering right now?
So it's a little bit mixed, I would say, in my head. So at some point, the market's going to turn. And last year, the intermodal and truckload providers said, oh, it's going to be in the second half. Never happened. But we are now well beyond the average period of a down market. So by sheer mathematics, you would think at some point during 2024, the market will start to turn. Trucking rates will go up, and then after that, intermodal rail rates will go up. It's murky, though, because usually it starts with spot truckload rates and then trickles down to contract, then it trickles to rail. And I've seen no evidence yet of that happening, and no one has come up with this macroeconomic catalyst to say this is what's going to kickstart it. So you've got the one side of no evidence of it getting kickstarted anytime soon, and the other evidence saying history says it will happen sometime soon. And so I think there's a lot of nervousness on the part of the shipper saying, we know we can get one more bite at the apple, so to speak, with low rates, but how long is it going to last? Yeah,
so there's still that uncertainty. I was talking to people about that yesterday on TPM TV, and then also the word resilience came up quite a few times yesterday as well. So what do you think supply chain professionals should be most concerned about maybe right now for 2024?
I would say the rate environment. So I would say, I am not going to say the back half is going to flip because they were wrong last year. But what I would say is there is a chance that a rate that you negotiate more on the domestic side than the international, a little bit international as well. But the rate that you negotiate in Q1, maybe early Q2, may not hold up through Q3 and Q4. And so a lot of shippers plan for it, and a lot of shippers have said to me, let me get that last bite at the apple, because if I could have 8 months of low rates and then understand I got to renegotiate with my carrier and kind of pay a little bit more in the last 4 months, then I put a 12-month calendar together and actually come out okay.
Wow. Okay. So that's what they should be looking to do in 2024. Awesome. That's a great tip and a great action plan, I think, for supply chain professionals in 2024. So I'm going to leave it there. So Ari, thank you so much for joining me for TPM TV.
Always happy to do it.
So we are at the end of day 2, and closing it out with me today is Peter. Peter, welcome. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. Happy to be with you.
I am so excited to be here for another TPM. I mean, the energy has been great. So many conversations, so much networking. Talk to us about your experience over the last 3 days. What's one thing that surprised you the most?
Well, it's been a great gathering. The event has a certain consistency to it every year, which is it is the right group of people to get together at the right time of year in the right place, and they are all coming together for the right reasons, and it has always gelled right from the beginning. And we're in year 24. Next year is going to be the 25th anniversary, and you can tell that this sort of unique TPM vibe that has that has come into being every year when it came into being again this year. So in that sense, it was no different.
Right, I love that. So talk to us about what has been different at TPM24. What are some of the features that you included, and what are you hearing? What's some of the feedback from all of that?
Well, so this was a big year for TPM in the sense that we got access to the downstairs expo space.
Finally.
So we were bursting at the seams at this conference.
Right.
I do believe that if the fire marshal had shown up last year during the opening remarks, they would have shut down TPM in an instant, because we had exceeded the capacity of the big grand ballroom upstairs.
Wow.
And so when the downstairs expo space became available, we immediately grabbed it without even thinking about it. Without really knowing precisely what we were going to do with it, but we grabbed it anyway, and for good reason. It all played out. Meaning that two things happened down there. One was the new grand ballroom went down there, bigger, larger, not constrained for space.
I saw it.
It was fantastic to see that whole massive room filled at the beginning of the event yesterday, and very full on subsequent occasions for other various and sundry big panels. That was fantastic. But then the other was the networking suites. So we decided that we would build networking suites for partners.
Amazing.
And that is not an expo booth. That is a enclosed meeting room with a conference table, with high walls, separated from other networking suites so that you're not overhearing other people. AV on the wall, food and beverage being served. Because the idea, Sarah, this was the idea, okay, is that actually there's a lot of time lost at TPM when people are going from one meeting to another, because a lot of the meetings are held at hotels around downtown Long Beach. The time here is so valuable.
It is.
Because of the number of people that everybody needs to see, and the number of sessions that they want to see. So
want to keep everybody together.
If we can do that, we will. Where I was very gratified this year, not only was to see approximately 20 private meeting suites be built and be taken by sponsors, but then to talk to them and to find out that actually they got put to good use.
Great.
Yes, we liked the privacy. We had good substantive conversations there that you wouldn't have in front of a live audience of people wondering why you're talking to this person, and oh wait, if you're talking to this person, that means you're gonna change your vendor or something, and then rumors fly and all that stuff. No, so many of the conversations that take place here are confidential conversations.
Yes, they
need to take place behind closed doors.
And lots of deals happening.
A lot of business is getting done.
Right? A lot of business is getting done.
Yeah.
All right. So then you also debuted the Women's Lounge, because we have, and it was really, really nice to see.
Yeah.
There was so much more diversity here at TPM24, and you started providing spaces for that. And I love to see that. And we were able to put some bags together for local women's shelters and things like that. So you're giving back to the community that you take so much space of every single year. And I love to see all of that. So talk to us about how important that diversity factor is.
Huge. And so to hear that from you, Sarah, is very meaningful, because that Women's Lounge was your idea.
And Audrey.
And Audrey's idea. Your idea and Audrey's idea. And so we're indebted to you for that. The fact of the matter is that what makes organizations thrive is talent. And talent resides with anybody and everybody. Not everybody has talent, but those who do have talent, the best organizations draw that out. And that could be any form of diversity is where that talent resides within. And so draw it out, celebrate it, put it to work, optimize it, maximize it, and the way you draw talent out is by making people feel comfortable and making people feel that they're contributing. So in a larger sense, if we can be supporting that here at TPM, because these are the values of S&P Global, our parent organization, which is very committed to diversity in all its aspects. And we can really see and feel how promoting diversity at TPM is in fact supporting individual organizations who are here. It's supporting the industry overall.
Awesome. I love that. So what were some of the key takeaways, key learnings that you had from TPM over the last couple of days?
Well, we're in a very pivotal moment, a very different moment. For most of the years that TPM took place, Sarah, globalization was in full swing. Trade barriers were falling. Freight rates were low, reliability was high, infrastructure was available, outsourcing was abundant. You could outsource, you could cut your costs, you could get the quality product you needed, you could get it on time, you could get it on a ship at a low cost, and off you went. And as we heard from Secretary Robert Gates yesterday in his keynote, the situation has completely changed. We're no longer in an era of globalization. We're in an era of geopolitical conflict, geopolitical competition, geopolitical tension. And as we saw in the Red Sea crisis, when ships started to come under attack in December, that unrest in a geopolitical sense can and will have a direct and tangible and costly impact on ocean containerized supply chains.
Right. And that is one of the biggest themes here at TPM24. So as we look into TPM25, can you give us a bit of a glimpse? Like, what is that going to look like? Are there new things that you're going to be rolling out? What should people get excited about and book their hotels tomorrow?
Well, for sure. I mean, it's going to be an amazing 25th anniversary event. I can tell you that already. There's going to be great energy. There's going to be great reasons, very valuable, relevant reasons for people to get together, just like there had been over every year going back to the first TPM. I can tell you that what we will do, as we do every year, is in the aftermath of TPM, we will totally deconstruct this event. Every single individual component of TPM, program, registration, audiovisual.
What worked? What didn't work?
It will form probably 30 to 35 individual committees.
Wow.
And give them 6 to 8 weeks to gather the data, analyze the daylights out of it, determine what worked and what didn't, and what your plan is going to be for next year. And then when we come out of that process in June-ish, and then we go right into the opening of registration and planning for where we are executing the plan, having built the plan. That all begins in August, because August 1 is when registration will open for TPM 2025.
Mark that date in your calendar.
Yeah.
All right, so registration opens August 1st, 2024. And what are the dates for TPM 25?
The dates are March 2nd through 5th, 2025, here in Long Beach.
All right, so mark your calendars, because we want to see you there. Peter, thank you so much for having me here at TPM. And thanks so much for being part of TPM TV.
Thank you, Sarah. Pleasure to be with you.
And that is a wrap on TPM24 here in sunny Long Beach, California. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, and it has been an incredible show. If you were not here this year, you definitely want to be here for 2025.